Hello everybody, welcome to judycentral.com online classes for law exams. So today I will be discussing with you the question paper of CLAT PG, the examination which was conducted just yesterday. And let me tell you first, the link for inviting objections are still open and it will be active till 9 p.m. Tonight. Only 9 p.m. till 9 p.m. tonight, and after 9 p.m. the link will be closed for inviting objections. And now I'll tell you what are the objections that you can take, and also one more thing, for raising each objection you have to pay a fee of rupees 1000. So if you're ready to raise any objection, then you need to pay the fee, and the link is active only till 9 p.m. today. So let us see the questions first. So I won't be dealing with you in detail each and every question. I won't be reading to you the para. I will be telling to you like what the para actually deals. And I would also like to tell you, like, whoever has followed my session on monthly roundup of Supreme Court cases, if you have followed it scrupulously, then you must have understood, and you also have realized that many of the questions which have come in this paper are actually matched. So I would like to tell you about that. And also let me tell you one very important thing, that the cutoff which is expected for general, what I actually think from my personal knowledge, it will be more than 90 score. I'm talking about 90 score out of 120. Because the level of the question paper is from easy to moderate, what I can see, because the questions are not at all difficult. If I talk about the first para, the answer of each of these objective questions are given in the para itself, and there are other questions, barring few questions like 20 questions around so, which are actually unpredictable, and those are not relating to the current recent judgments. Those are actually relating to the the year of 2012, 2018, 2017 as well, and also relating to 1996 and 1997. So I would be dealing with you each and every question. So first of all, let me tell you, this para actually deals with this is a book extract, and one second. Yeah, this is a book extract from jurisprudence, and it actually speaks about jurisprudence and its application of law by the judges. So let us see the questions. The purpose of the science of law is to achieve option number C, pure knowledge based on reality. So I would recommend you, once you pause this video and read the para by yourself, and you would find like whatever questions has been asked based on this para, the answers are hidden in the para itself. So the first para is actually very easy. Second, the prevailing method of the practical science of law is the method which is, this option number A, employed by judges for application of law. The judicial thinking is prominently guided by option number C, practical purposes followed by judicial science. Due to lack of time, I couldn't discuss with you, and also I would like to tell you first, like, see, whenever you're facing this kind of question, I would recommend you, do not read the para at once. I repeat, do not read the para at once. How shall you shall have the tendency of finding the answers of the questions in the para, like taking one keyword, one relevant keyword, and then try to find the same in the para, and that's how you shall solve this kind of questions. Because because the total time is 120 minutes and the total questions are 120, and if you take 3 minutes per para, then you can understand more than half of your question you will miss out. So this is not the right way to solve the questions. So I don't think so it needs any further explanation. And next I would deal with you, okay, I have already discussed with you this case law called Arnab Manoranjan Goswami versus State of Maharashtra. So this case is relating to arrest of the noted journalist called Arnab Goswami. And this is actually not a book extract, but it is actually taken from an editorial, and it actually speaks about like how the court can come to the rescue of those persons who are arrested in violation of their personal liberty. So we'll see the question. Which of the following statements regarding human liberty is untrue? This is option number 3. liberty is an infrangible concept. This not infrangible means not frangible. Liberty is actually frangible concept. This is given in the first para itself. Human liberty is precious constitutional value. It is as tenuous can be. Tenuous means very weak. Then we'll move to the next question. This actually liberty of a citizen is alive because of lively media and judiciary. So both of these answer, the answer of both of the questions are given in the para itself. And next we'll move. Consider the given statement and we have to choose the correct statement. So the correct option is option number C. For seeking the intervention of the court, the petitioner has to prima facie establish that the state agency has misused the force of criminal law, which causes casualty for the human liberty. And second is untrue because deprivation of liberty by a rule by law is bearable up to 24 hours. No, it is not true because according to Article 20, that person has to be produced within 24 hours, not up to 24 hours. The fair investigation in a criminal trial is a guarantee. This is option number C, against arbitrariness, a right to life and personal liberty. Ensuring that the crime is fairly investigated and dealt in accordance with the rule of law is fundamentally a matter of social interest. In the given excerpt, for the protection of human liberty, the court has given emphasis on, so it has given emphasis on both B and C, role of the courts at all levels and balance between the due enforcement and preventing misuse of criminal law. That's what the para actually deals with. Then next we'll deal with this very important case law. I have already discussed with you. It is regarding the permanent commission of women army officers or women military officers. So I have already dealt the case law with you, and the name of the case law is Babita Punia versus Union of India. So the first question is, which of the following judgments relating to the equality of opportunity for women seeking permanent commissions in the Indian Army is the excerpt taken from? Very easy one. This is Ministry of Defence versus Babita Punia. So 2020 judgment I have already discussed with you in detail. And let me tell you, the same para I have already discussed with you in detail. If you have followed the monthly wise Supreme Court cases roundup, which is already there on my channel, I would share the playlist in the description box below. Based on the given excerpt from a judgment, which of the following was not a direction given by the Supreme Court of India? This is option number A. Women officers on short service commission with more than 12 years of service who do not opt for being considered for the grant of the permanent commission will be entitled to continuing service until they complete 22 years of pensionable service. No, this is not true. The next one is 15. That women officers would upset the dynamics is a unit is an what? Is an actually an unreasonable ground for denying them permanent commission, because this is the ground taken by the army officers, male army officers, to not provide them the permanent commission. So it is said that because women officers would upset the dynamic in a unit is an unreasonable ground for denying the permanent commission. Then 16. Which of the following judgment is not related to equality of opportunity in matters of public employment as guaranteed by the Constitution of India? This option number is Nisha Priya Bhatia versus Union of India. Let me tell you, the above three cases are relating to reservation, and I have already discussed with you in detail. I have taken a session on cases on reservation in which I have discussed all these case laws relating to reservation. The next one is, based on the given excerpt, which of the following is correct regarding the blanket restriction on women army officers? So let us see. The correct option is option number B. An absolute bar on women seeking criteria or command appointments would not comport. That comport means archaic, but it means agree with. Would not, that means not to agree with the guarantee of equality under Article 14 of the Constitution of India. So on that ground, the Supreme Court has supported that the blanket restriction is not allowed because it actually discriminates the women and it's a violation of the right to equality under Article 14. Then the next case actually deals with, this is actually out of the box question because this case is dealing with prenatal sex determination, and the correct option is, this is Rekha Sengar versus State of Madhya Pradesh 2021. And then the next para we will be dealing with, this is a para which actually says which deals with the right to property, And this para says that right to property, though not a fundamental right, but still it's a constitutional right and a human rights also. So we'll see. So this para is actually not very tough, but what I would say that the answers of the questions are not given, most of the answers of the question is given in the para. So you need to apply your personal knowledge to solve these questions. So right to property ceased to be a fundamental right by this option number D. All of us know it's Constitution 44th Amendment Act 1978. In which of the following cases the Supreme Court of India held that provisions of law seeking to divest the right provided under Article 300A of the Constitution of India must be strictly construed. This option number A, L. Padamma versus S. Ramakrishna Reddy. Then right to property is a basic human right. Which of the following statement is true regarding human rights? This option number A and B. So let us understand. Human rights have been considered in the realm of individual rights such as right to shelter, livelihood, health, employment, etc. And the human rights have gained a multifaceted dimension. So both of this will include in this under the definition of human rights. Eminent domain is defined as, what do you mean? It is option number C, the power of sovereign to take property for public use without the owner's consent upon the payment of just compensation. The next one is, this is actually tricky. According to which of the following juris property is the objective manifestation of the personality of an individual? So this has been said by Friedrich Hegel. This is option number B. And which of the following statements is true regarding the right to property? This is option number C. Right to property is not a basic feature of the Constitution of India. This is true. And the next para is actually dealing with the concept called bail. In this para, by this judgment called Sangeeta Ben Bhai Datanta versus State of Gujarat, the author has criticized and said that the court which are actually in a more inclined towards or in the habit of, or say these courts are nowadays are in the habit of imposing unreasonable conditions before granting bail, and such kind of conditions are not valid, and it is actually a failure of justice if it is continued in future also. And that's how this by this judgment the author is deprecating the conduct of the courts in imposing such unreasonable conditions before granting the accused on bail. In which of the following cases the Supreme Court of India held that the jurisdiction of high courts under section 439 of CRPC is related to grant or denial of bail during pendency of trial? So the case is actually option number D, state representative by the Inspector of Police versus M. Murugesan. It is the judgment is the latest one and it has been decided in the year 2021. Then next question is, which of the following statement is true regarding the special powers of High Court regarding bail under section 439 of CRPC? This is option number 1. High Court may direct that any person who has been arrested on bail, who has been released on bail, be arrested. So this is the power granted by the High Court under section 439. Which of the following statement is not true regarding the special power of the High Court regarding bail under section 439 of CRPC? So section 439 of CRPC deal with bail which is given by the power to grant bail by Court of Session or High Court. So the answer of this question 27 is option number C. High Court may pass any order which in the opinion of the court could be in the interest of justice and personal liberty of the arrested person. So this is actually not true. And then while deciding an application for grant of bail, the court has to, this option number B, opine as to whether there is prima facie case against the accused. So only the court has to consider whether the prima facie case is made out against the accused or not before granting the accused on bail. Under section 439 of CRPC, the special power regarding bail may be exercised by this option number B, High Court or Court of Session. Under section 439 of CRPC 1973, the court may impose any conditions which it considers necessary while releasing an arrested person on bail if the alleged offences. So if the alleged offence is option number D, offence against the state or offence affecting the human body or offence against the property. So next I will be dealing with a very important judgment in which the right of the daughters in co-partnership property has been recognized. This is based on the recent judgment I have already discussed with you, and the name of the judgment is Vinita Sharma versus Rakesh Sharma. So let us see the questions. Let us see the questions. Which of the following judgment is not related to property rights of daughter as a co-partner under Hindu law? This is option number D. This is Kalindi Damodar Garde versus Manohar Lakshman Kulkarni. Then based on the given excerpt from a judgment, which of the following statement is not correct in relation to Section 6 of the Hindu Succession Act? This is option number B. A daughter will not be subject to the same liabilities in respect of the said co-partnership property as that of a son. This is untrue because daughter is actually subject to the same liability as that of a son. 33. Which of the following is the doctrine of legal fiction created to ascertain the share of the deceased joint family property? I have already discussed with you. If you have followed my session, what is doctrine of notional partition? Notional partition is nothing but it is actually applicable when the father dies intestate, that means without a will. And in this, what actually happens, like father's share is equally divided between his son and daughter. Then which of the following is related to the judgment of Kiran Devi versus Bihar State Sunni Waqf Board, this 2021 case? So this case is related to presumption of Hindu joint family property. As per the given excerpt from a judgment, which of the following is correct in relation to the living status of a father in ensuring co-partnership property rights of a daughter? So what actually the judgment said? So it said that CC right in co-partnership to a daughter is by birth. It is not necessary that father co-partner should be living as of September 9, 2005. That's what the Supreme Court said. Then the next case is, next question is, in which of the following judgment was it held that a Hindu joint family is presumed to be joint in food, worship and estate unless the contrary is food? So this has been said in the case of Adi Veppa versus Bhimappa. This is a 2017 judgment, option number 17. And the next para is actually dealing with, this is taken from a Supreme Court judgment which deals with law of contract, and it actually speaks about the essentials of offer and acceptance. So let us jump into the questions. Based on the given excerpt, which of the following judgment is related to acceptance of a conditional offer? This is option number B. Padia Timber Company Private Limited versus Board of Trustees of Vishakhapatnam Port Trust. This judgment has been delivered in January 2021. The acceptance must match with the terms of offer. The statement is known as option number C, mirror rule. Then 39. Which of the following judgments relates to postal rule in a contract? This option number D, Bhagwan Das, Govardhan Das Kedia versus Girdhari Lal Purushottam Das. 40. Based on the given excerpt, which of the following is correct? This option number, if the acceptance is conditional, offer can be withdrawn at any time until absolute acceptance has been taken place. Then next is, so it is actually relating to, let us see the facts. The university sent a letter regarding the offer of appointment to Mr. A.X. at his postal address on June 10, 2021. However, Mr. X received a lead about the dispatch of offer of appointment from his friend Mr. Y, who is an employee of the university. Upon knowing about the offer, Mr. X sent his acceptance through email at the official email ID of the university. Later, due to restrictions guidelines issued by the appropriate authority during the COVID-19 pandemic, Mr. X failed to receive the letter by the university, whereas it was specifically mentioned that the communication for acceptance was to be sent in writing through the postal service at the official address of the university, and no other mode of communication would be accepted. So you have to choose which of the following is correct. This is option number B. Acceptance before completion of delivery of offer is not valid. Because actually it is said that the acceptance has to be done through postal service, and this is the reason why it is not valid. Then which of the following is correct about acceptance of offer in a contract? This is option number 2. An absolute and unqualified acceptance may be inferred from the conduct of the offering. So this is actually correct. And then next we will be dealing with, it deals with self-determination and bodily integrity has been had. So this case is actually dealing with, the para is actually dealing with a leading case law on delivered by the Supreme Court, in which the Supreme Court has recognized the right of living will of those persons who are terminally ill and are expecting and are in a vegetative condition, and they actually are in a deathbed. So we'll see the case law. I have already discussed with you the case law. This is a 2018 judgment. So the first question is, Based on the given excerpt, which of the following judgment relates to euthanasia? This is option number A, Common Cause versus Union of India. So this is the case law. Based on the given excerpt, which of the following is not correct regarding an adverse medical directive? This is option number D. Right of execution by an individual depends on recognition or legislation by a state. No, this is actually not correct, because right of execution by an individual actually depends on the individual himself, not by the recognition of legislation or by a state. Which of the following is not correct as per the Supreme Court judgment in Gyankor versus State of Punjab, which is not correct? So we have to choose option number D. Right to life includes right to die. Actually, in Gyankor versus State of Punjab, the Supreme Court had said that right to life doesn't include right to die. In the judgment referred in the excerpt, which of the following was not held by the Supreme Court of India? So this option number C, a human being having mental capacity to take an informed decision has no right to refuse medical treatment, including withdrawal from life-saving devices. No, this is not true, because he has a right to refuse medical treatment, including withdrawal from life-saving devices, and that's what he is free to write in his will. Then 47, which of the following judgment doesn't relate to the constitutionality of right to die? So this option number B is D.S. Grewal versus Vimmi Joshi, 2009. So this question has been repeated from the previous year questions of CLAT. So if you have referred to the video, I have already uploaded on my channel, and if you have followed that, so you might have noticed that this is a previous year question. Which of the following is not correct regarding passive euthanasia as per judicial precedents in India? This is option number B. It is legally not permissible in India. So this is actually not correct. Then the next para is actually deals with once again, let's let me do evidence of public either. Okay, so this case is actually this para is actually dealing with the proceedings of courts which are actually held in camera and in exceptional circumstances in camera, and also open court. So that's the topic of this para. So we'll jump into the questions. In which of the following cases Court of India held that even if the press is present, if individual members of the public are refused admission, the proceedings cannot be considered to go in open court? So this actual option number C is Muhammad Shahabuddin versus State of Bihar. Next case is in which of the following cases did the Supreme Court of India, while noting that live streaming of court cases is an extension of the principle of open courts, remark sunlight is the best infected? I have already discussed with you. This option number is Swapnil Tripathi versus Supreme Court of India. Which of the following statement is true regarding significance of open court? This option number D. Publicity is the very soul of justice, as it keeps the judge himself while trying under trial. The next question is, which of the following statement is not true regarding the applicability of rule of open court? This option number A. Fair administration of justice is a means to ensure public trial, not an end. So this is not true. Which of the following provisions of CRPC provides that as a general rule, criminal courts shall be deemed to be open courts? So what is the under which section of the CRPC the provision has been given? This option number C, section 327 clause 1. The prevalence of which of the following among which are obstacles to the effective implementation of the open court principle? This option number C, lack of awareness about court proceedings. So this is actually one of the obstacles to the effective implementation of the open court principle. Then the next case actually deals with this is actually relating with one second. Yes, the para deals with gender stereotyping by the judges. Like generally the stance taken by the judges in deciding any cases of gender stereotyping, that's what has been criticized in this para. And let us see the questions. The review of the given excerpt highlights a prevailing problem of this option number C, imposing non-statutory conditions by the court while granting bail applications, and lack of gender sensitization of the bar and the bench, particularly with regard to judicial empathy for the prosecutrix. So this is what has been discussed in this para. Like generally while granting bail, the court doesn't take this gender sensitization or gender generalization while deciding on the bail applications, and that's what has been criticized. Consider the following statement. So you have to choose the correct statement. This is option number A. Judges play a vital role at all levels as teachers to the entire legal community and the public, and courts should desist from expressing any gender stereotype opinion during proceedings or in the course of a judicial order. The next case is which of the following conditions cannot be imposed by the court for granting bail. This is option number B and C. Conditions in conformity with the guidelines laid by the Supreme Court for granting bail. And then conditions which suit the case after examining the credibility and culpability of the accused with the subjective satisfaction of the judge while granting bail. So these are the conditions which shall not be taken. Which of the following cannot be imposed by the court? Conditions in guidelines. So okay. So what this question actually wants to say that the court cannot impose its own conditions while granting bail. That's what the the question is actually asked. Imposing irrelevant conditions which have no nexus with the offence or relevance to the object of the bail provisions may violate. So it may violate option number D, both A and B. This is right to equality, right to life and personal liberty. Which of the following is not a gender stereotype statement? Option number D, women are capable of taking decisions on their own. This is not a gender stereotype typical statement. So consider the following statement. You have to choose the correct one. The correct option is option number D. 2 is true and 1 is untrue. Judicial stereotyping adds to judicial decision a view based on real social facts and cultural inquiry. This is not true. Judicial stereotyping is a barrier to justice, particularly for women victims. And the next para deals with section 311 of the CRPC. Under section 311 of the CRPC, the court have wide powers to summon any witness or recall any witness who, although they are already examined, to be examined again. So the para is actually like in which of the following conditions the court must or shall or may recall the witnesses under section 311. In which of the following cases the Supreme Court of India held that an application under section 311 of the code of CRPC could not be rejected on the sole ground that the case had been pending for an inordinate amount of time, in that case for 10 years. So in which case it has been said. So this option number B, Manju Devi versus State of Rajasthan, is a 2019 judgment. The power conferred upon a criminal code by section 311 of the Code of Criminal Procedure 1973 is this option number D, B and C, discretionary and permissive. So permissive means optional. That means section 311 is not doesn't have a mandatory character. If it appears to the court that an application under section 311 of the Code of Criminal Procedure 1973 has been filed only up to fill up a lacuna in the case of the prosecution or the defense, should the court allow such application? The correct option is option number B, no. In which of the following circumstances should an application under section 311 of the CRPC allowed by the court? This is option number A. When allowing the applications enable the court to determine the truth and to render a just decision. Only in those circumstances section 311 can be used or is applicable, only on those conditions. Section 311 of the Code of Criminal Procedure imposes duty on the court to, this is option number D, simultaneously determine the truth and render a just decision. 636, when a court summons any person as a witness upon allowing an application made by the accused under section 311 of the Code of Criminal Procedure, which of the following statement is correct? This is option number B. An opportunity of rebuttal must be given to the prosecution. Well, this is actually mandatory, that if you are examining a person, then you must give an opportunity to the prosecution to again to cross him. And the next para deals with custodial violence. So now we'll deal with the question. India has dashed the United Nations Convention against torture and other cruel, inhuman or degrading treatment or punishment. The correct option is option number B. India has actually signed this convention but not ratified this yet. Then next one is which of the following is a legislation proposed by the Law Commission of India through its report number 273 on implementation of United Nations Convention against torture and other cruel, inhuman, degrading treatment or punishment through legislation in October 2017. This option number A. The Prevention of Torture Bill 2017, well, this is a tricky one because this actually relates to 2017. Which of the following provisions of the Constitution of India provide for protection of person from torture, other cruel, inhuman and degrading treatment? This is 20 clause through Article 21, 22 clause 1 and 22 clause 2. 20 clause 3 actually deals with the term called double jeopardy, and also a person cannot be tried twice, and 22 deals with no person can be detained in police custody for more than 24 hours. It actually deals with against this preventive detention. Then in which of the following cases did the Supreme Court of India, while dealing with the case in which a successful scientist having national reputation had been taken into police custody without any justification, cause, reprimanded the lackadaisical attitude of the police for the arrest, which made the scientist to suffer ignominy, and awarded compensation of rupees 50 lakh to compensate the suffering, anxiety and the treatment by which the quintessence of life and liberty under the Constitution withers away. So this is a very famous case law, and also a film is also will be released soon on this events. This is option number C, S. Nambi Narayanan versus C.B. Matthews. This is actually a judgment of 2018. By mistakenly it is written as 2015. Then which of the following statements stood regarding arrest and custody? This is option number C. In every arrest there is custody but not vice versa, but both the words custody and arrest are not synonymous terms. These two. So the next case it actually deals with the question is actually in which of the following cases did the Supreme Court of India, when dealing with the case of a social activist who agitated against the issue of exploitation of people belonging to poor and marginalized sections of the society and was falsely roped in criminal cases, arrested and physically assaulted in police custody, noted, if the functionaries of the government become lawbreakers, it is bound to breed contempt for law and would encourage lawlessness, and every man would have the tendency to become law unto himself, thereby leading to anarchy. This is option number A. Mahmood Nayyar Azam versus State of Chhattisgarh. This is a 2012 judgment. Of course, this judgment is old and little expected. Then the next para deals with the law of extradition. So let us see the questions. Which of the following is the underlying basis for extradition? This option number D, both A and B. It is in the interest of civilized communities that criminals should not go unpunished, and B, it is recognized as a part of the Committee of Nations that one state should ordinarily afford to another state assistance towards bringing offenders to justice. 74. According to the provision of the Extradition Act 1962, where there is no extradition treaty made by India with a foreign state, which of the following is correct? This option number A, the central government may by notified order treat any convention to which India and the foreign state are parties as an extradition treaty made by India with that foreign state. So in those cases in which no extradition treaty is actually there between India and any other state, so whatever treaty is there between India and that country, it will treat as an extradition treaty made by India with that foreign state. 75. Because of the negative attitude of Dash on the subject of extradition, it is by and large dealt with by bilateral treaties, customary international law. Which of the following rules is generally followed in extradition by the requested state vis-a-vis the nature of criminal justice system in the requesting state? This is actually known as rule of non-inquiry. So non-inquiry is what? Like suppose if an extradition case is going in a foreign state, so the court shall not look into these issues, like if the accused who is right now staying in the requesting state will be ill-treated or will be he will be treated in an inhuman way in the requested state. So in those legalities, the extradition court will not interfere. 77. Whether or not the fugitive who has been extradited should have a standing to complain of the judicial process in the requesting state after extradition has been done, independent of the position taken by the requesting state, is a debatable issue. The given statement relates to the debates in international law concerning this option number A, the position of an individual as a subject of international law and the obligation of state towards individuals. According to to the given passage, which of the following is not a similarity between deportation and exclusion? So what is not the similarity? This option number C. Both are precursors to extradition. So this actually not a similarity. The next case we will be dealing with, this para deals with child custody, custody of a minor child. So now let us deal with the questions. In which of the following judgment was the constitutionality of section 6A of the Hindu Minority and Guardianship Act 1956 challenge? So this is a previous year question. This is option number C, Geeta Hariharan, but the Reserve Bank of India. This is 1999. Not actually, but I have some reservations about the date given. But yeah, the case is to Geeta Hariharan versus Reserve Bank of India. The natural guardian of a Hindu minor is according to section 6 of the Hindu Guardianship and Minority Act. It is option number D, only father. Which of the following judgments doesn't relate to the welfare of minor being of paramount consideration? This option number B, Revana Sidappa versus Mallikarjun, because this case is relating to suit for partition. 82. The natural guardian of an adopted child as per Hindu law is option number A, adoptive father. 83. Which of the following is not correct regarding the parens patria of the parens patria jurisdiction? Parens patria means father of the nation. It is actually regarded as the court under exceptional circumstances for the welfare of the minor child can also act as a father of that minor child. This option number C, it is not to secure the welfare of the minor, because this is not true. 84. Which of the following judgment relates with the concept of shared parenting? This option number A, this is 2020 judgment, Yashita Sahu versus State of Rajasthan. And this para actually deals with company law. It deals with the powers of SFIO, the power of investigation of the SFIO, that means Serious Fraud Investigation Office, and in matters relating to fraud. So let us see the questions. As per the provisions of section 211 clause 3 of the Companies Act 2013, Director of Serious Fraud Investigation Office shall be an officer not below the rank of a joint secretary to the Government of India, having knowledge and experience in dealing with matters relating to corporate affairs. The nature of the provision is option number 8, it's mandatory in nature. 86. Which principle of interception has been adopted by the court for the interpretation of section 212 clause C of the Companies Act 2013? This is option number C. So the interpretation which has been taken by the Supreme Court in that given judgment is actually liberal. The court has considered that the investigation beyond the time prescribed in the order of investigation shall be, this option number B, valid. As per the given except a strict interpretation of expression within such period as may be specified in the order will, this option number B, defeat the intention of the legislation. As per the given except, the author is suggesting that it is actually to defeat the intention of the legislation. 89. Considering the expression of section 212 clause 6 of the Companies Act, an offence under section 447, section 447 deals with fraud of the Companies Act shall be, so the offences are actually in the nature of cognizable and non-bailable. The expression officers and employees under section 212 clause 5 of the Companies Act 2013 denotes, it is option number C, persons who are or who have been in employment of the country. And the next para deals with public interest litigation, and it deals with the various legalities and the essentials which is required in a public interest litigation and how the public interest litigation is widely misused. So let us see the question. Which of the following is not correct in relation to public interest litigation? This is option number C. Recourse to a proceeding under Article 32 may or may not be taken by a genuinely interested person in protection of society on behalf of a community. This is totally untrue, because recourse can be taken if the person is genuine and he is actually instituting in protection of society or on behalf of a particular community. 92. And now let me tell you, in which of the following judgments the public trust doctrine was discussed by the Supreme Court of India. This is MC Mehta versus Kamal Nath, that MC Mehta versus Union of India. Here it is mistaken, but if you have chosen MC Mehta versus Union of India, then it's true. Which of the following issues of public interest is raised in Deepika Jagatram Sahani versus Union of India? This is a 2021 judgment. I have already discussed with you the judgment in my previous sessions. So the correct option is option number D, reopening and providing services of Anganwadi centers in India. 94. Which of the following is not correct regarding the locus standi in a public interest litigation? This is option number 1. Only an effective and vulnerable person can approach the court for remedy. This is not true. Any person can approach on behalf of that affected and vulnerable person. Then this case is if a citizen is no more than a wayfarer or officious intervener without any interest or concern beyond what belongs to any of the 660 million people of the country, the door of the court will not be ajar for him. That means not be open for him. But if he belongs to an organization which has special interest in the subject matter, if he has some concern deeper than that of a busybody, he cannot be told off at the gates. Although whether the issue raised by him is justiciable, may still remain to be considered. So in which case it has been observed. So the correct option is option number 6. Fertilizer Corporation Kamgar Union versus Union of India. Well, this one is also tricky. Which of the following public interest litigation is related to proper maintenance of cultural heritage of India, is also the ecology in the surrounding areas of Taj Mahal? Now let me tell you, you can challenge this question because the judgment, the question they're talking, the correct option what they're telling is 2008. No, MC Mehta versus Union of India, let me tell you. The case was actually decided in the year 1986 and in the Supreme Court cases it was reported in the year 1997. So near about 1999 you can choose, but 2008 is not correct because this case is popularly known as Taj Trapezium case. The next question is relating to the next para. This para actually deals with the rights of disabled persons. So let us see, a person with disability as per the Rights of Persons with Disability Act 2016, with this option number D. A person with long-term physical, mental, intellectual or sensory impairment which in interaction with barriers hinders his full and effective participation in society equally with others. So this is the definition of person with disability. So it includes physical, mental, intellectual and sensory impairment. 90th, which of the following judgments held that heart ailment is not a disability covered under the ambit of the Right of Persons with Disability Act 2016? This is also this not expected. Option number C, Naval Kishore Sharma versus Union of India. This is 2021. It's the latest judgment. Based on the given excerpt, which of the following judgment deals with the rights of disabled persons? This is option number A, Jija Ghosh versus Union of India. This is 2016 judgment. Which of the following is not correct as per the Supreme Court judgment in Vikas Kumar versus Union Public Service Commission? I have already dealt with you the given case law. So this option number D, persons with disability are required to bear the cost of the accommodation. So this case has been decided in 2020 and this case is relating to right to scribe for writing the examination. Which of the following issues was raised in Union of India versus M. Selva Kumar 2017? This option number B, special reservation in favor of physically handicapped and mentally challenged. 102, a person with benchmark disability as per the Rights of Persons with Disability Act 2016 means a person with not less than, this is as per the act, it is means if a person is not less than 40% of a specified disability. So 40% is the ceiling. The next case deals with, again this case deals with the the power of bail under section 439. 439 in those cases for the cases which have been appealed and against the cases for which suspension of sentence has been appealed. Let us see the question. Which court is competent to grant bail under section 439 of the Code of Criminal Procedure? This option number D, B and C, this Court of Session and High Court. I have already told you. Who can file application for cancellation of bail? Well, this para is easy. This is option number both A and B, public prosecutor and complainant. In which court can application for bail be filed? This option number D, in the appellate court if the accused is convicted and he prefers appeal against conviction. B, revisional court when the court has filed a division petition, and C, Court of Session. So in all the courts an application for bail can be filed. Expiration, any person accused of offence and in custody used in section 49 of the CRPC means, it means option number D. What do we mean by the question is, what do we mean by person is custody? That means a person who has been arrested and remanded to police custody, a person who has been arrested and remanded to police custody, a person who is accused of bailable offence and surrenders before the Sessions Court for the purposes of bail. Conditions embodied in section 439(1) regarding the presence of informant at the time of hearing of bail application in certain sexual offences are inserted by this is option number A, Criminal Law Amendment Act 2018. Which of the following is correct regarding bail under section 439? This option number B. Court is required to give a notice to the public prosecutor within 15 days of the receipt of application in certain sexual offences mentioned in 439. And the next para is dealing with, so this is small para and it actually deals with the the essentials of offer and acceptance. A similar para we have already covered. So so two similar paras are given in the question paper. So let us solve this one. In case a contract is entered through instantaneous modes of communication, which of the following is correct? This option number A. Section 4 of the Indian Contract Act is not applicable stricto sensu, that means not in strict sense. Then goods displayed in a shopping mall with price mentioned against each of them is an example of what? A very easy invitation to offer. Option number C. Which of the following statement regarding 2G of the Indian Contract Act is it's not true? It deals with void contract due to ceasing of enforceability of law. It deals with contract which is not void. This option number C deals with agreement which is void from its inception. Section 2 clause J deals with void agreements. What is the effect of counter offer? What actually happens? A counter offer leads to rejection of the original offer. And then in order to constitute a valid acceptance of an offer, if it must be this option of A and C, unqualified and absolute, let me tell you, this para is nothing but it is actually repeated what we have just done. To be legally valid contract, there must be option number D, offer and acceptance, lawful consideration, lawful object, free consent, competent parties, intention to create legal relations. The next para we will be dealing with, it is relating to wildlife, the state's duty in protecting the environment and wildlife. So let us see which of the following provision enjoys duty on the state to preserve and protect the environment. This you can challenge because this is only option number B, and let me tell you why. Because Article 47 deals with the duty of the state to raise a level of nutrition and the standard of living and to improve public health, and it has nothing to do with the protection of environment. So you can challenge this. So again this question. So 3 questions we can challenge. This is under which of the following enactment noise pollution regulation and control rules have been carried. This is only option number B, Environment Protection Act 1986, because Air Prevention and Control Pollution Act 1981 has nothing to do with noise pollution. Then which of the following enlist processes generating hazardous waste? This is option number C, Hazardous Wastes Management and Transboundary Movement Rules 2016. This is 2. The concept of extended producer responsibility embodied in Environment Protection Act 1986 is based on the following doctrines. Is option number A, polluter pays principle. When the Environment Protection Act 1986 came into force, this is option number D, 19th November 1986. Wonder which of the following constitution amendment inserted Article 48A in the Constitution of India? This option number C, Constitution 42nd Amendment Act 1976. So now, with this, I am actually done with the entire questions of CLAT PG 2021. You can surely raise objection if you want to. And let me tell you about the cutoff, because the questions are, I would say, easy to moderate. I won't say hard level, but it is actually easy to moderate. Many questions you can solve basing on your personal knowledge, and I have already done a session on the recent judgments, and if you have followed that, you can easily solve these questions. So what I'm actually for cutoff, what I'm actually pondering that it will be above 95 above. That's what I'm thinking. For general category it will be 95 above, and for reserved category there may be 10% of difference. What I can say, 10 or 20% of difference, not more than that. So with this note I am signing off. Have a great day.